Hi, welcome to Off Script. I'm Zach Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Draper.
Today on the show, we're taking a look at Firestarter, the new Peacock adaptation of the Stephen King story, is out, and Randy and I both paid the price of admission to get stupid Peacock and watch it. Peacock's really a middling platform, man. I thought maybe there'd be some more value there. It's $5 for the premium membership, and I watched Firestarter and then I canceled my membership. There's nothing cool on there. There's nothing cool at all. I was very disappointed.
Anyway. I was disappointed that I signed up for the free tier, and Firestarter is not available on the free tier, only on the paid tier. But they don't say that.
It looks like it is, though. Yeah. And all the promotional.
They don't say that anywhere. When you scroll through the service, it's like Firestarter. Sure. Watch it now.
Yep.
No, you got to
give us your email. We promise we'll give you good content. Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't know. Anyway, we'll talk a little bit more about Peacock when we get down to it. We're also taking a look at Ex Machina, the 2014 film from Alex Garland, who most recently is directing Men, which is out in theaters this next week. Ex Machina was his first film, an Academy Award-winning film, believe it or not, and was a big upset when it won in 2015 over a couple of other big features that I'm excited to tell you about when we get to our review. We need to talk about the future of Marvel. I think it was Variety put out a great summary this last week of just where the last 11 or so Marvel properties have left audiences as far as continuity goes. And there's some questions about where Phase 4 is headed. And normally I wouldn't care too much about comic book movies here on the show, but these movies make a lot of money, big, bold box office numbers. And we are the home of bold cinema, so we're going to talk about it. And we also need to get to the news. First things first, Disney Plus powers to nearly 138 million subscribers, beating streaming expectations for March quarter. Andy, you found this story. What do you know about this?
Well, in the time that Netflix lost 200,000 subscribers, Disney gained almost 8 million. That's a 7.9 million and that's paying customers, which brings them up to about 138 million overall, and that's across all three of their services, which is Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus. So they're catching up. They are gaining on Netflix. Netflix still has the biggest chunk of the pie at 221 million subscribers, but Disney not so far behind. Disney's actually at 205 million. They have 138 million just on Disney Plus. So they're 15 million short of catching Netflix. And they only came out 3 years ago.
Yeah, the beginning of not even quite the beginning of the pandemic, a little after
2019. Two and a half years. That's crazy.
It is bananas, and it's hard to deny at this point that Disney Plus will be one of the handful of things that really defines former CEO Bob Iger's legacy. I mean, him bringing in Disney into a streaming platform was tremendous for them. And this is the company that was originally charging $30 per home video clamshell of their Disney VHSs. Like, Disney is not typically prone to just making their stuff widely available. And it turns out people want it, and they're willing to pay one low monthly subscription fee for it. They're having a ton of success over here, and good for them. They should. They got their Star Wars shows. They got their Marvel shows. I do wonder where all that's going, but like I said, we're going to talk about that in the middle of the show. For now, they're just killing it. Like they can't be stopped. The House of Mouse is simply too big, and it's a problem for Netflix, who is steadily losing people at this point on the other side of the fence.
Yeah, Netflix is going to have to just kind of figure out what they're doing, do things differently, because this churn and burn of just making as much content as possible, no matter the quality, isn't paying off. And that's one of the first things they've done is really cut back on production. That being said, as far as this is good news for Disney of their subscriber base, they were actually still down for their earnings for this quarter. I think mostly due to still recovering from the pandemic. They had to pay a huge licensing fee over $1 billion, probably to Netflix. It's wasn't specified who it was, but it was for basically contract termination. And I think that was those shows like Daredevil, Luke Cage, that came over from Netflix. They had to pay to buy out of that contract. So down for the overall quarter, but the subscriber growth just continues to grow. And this summer, they're going to be opening in some markets overseas. Disney Plus will, like South Africa and some other places. So they're going to grow even more.
I tell you, I think Netflix needs to come around on this idea of like producing content in house again because they so often license stuff out from other studios. Just this next week, we're talking about watching Jackass 4.5, and Netflix had to pay Paramount for that because normally that'd be on Paramount Plus, but now Netflix is paying another streaming service for the rights to get it over there, and it's temporary and it's going to go away. And when Jackass goes away, the people who are there to watch Jackass are going to go to Paramount, and Netflix is going to lose their subscribers. Like they seem to have this kind of approach right now where they just kind of float from month to month. They'll commit to something for a season. They'll maybe take on a new show for one season, maybe two, and then they'll cancel it. And the people who were there to watch that stuff leave. I think streaming services are finding that like core shows, like core properties that bring people in and keep them there are what works. Marvel shows, Star Wars, HBO does this with their premium series. Apple TV has a couple of these, Ted Lasso, stuff like that. um Netflix doesn't have anything. They don't have anything real
They
sexy.
have
What do they got? Stranger Things?
they got
Like
one
season
show that
4?
people know. Yeah,
Yeah.
Stranger Things, and that's taken forever to develop. And Disney
Yeah.
has, they're coming out with three or four Disney shows a year, if probably more than that. Yeah, and Netflix doesn't have anything to get excited about. That's platform only,
No. No. I know we talked about it last week, but like, how are they only on Stranger Things season 4? Who at Netflix decided just to let that property sit like in hibernation every other year? It's a terrible idea.
We should
People
have already
people want
had.
content now. Yeah, like I don't want to have to wait 8 years for 4 seasons.
Yeah, we should have already had like 2 movies and like 6
Yeah.
seasons of this, or or spin-offs moving, who knows? There's a whole
Yeah, the
world to be
community
explored
approach.
there.
6 seasons in a movie. That's what I should have of Stranger Things right now. Instead, I'm coming up on season 4, and all the kids look like they're walking out of college. Anyway,
It's gonna be
Disney Plus.
it's gonna be like Saved by the Bell, the college years. Be Stranger Things, the college years.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're gonna have Screech walking around in the back talking about the Upside Down. Disney Plus is going to continue to kill it. We are on Off Script. We'll continue to cover it. And our next story. I shouldn't laugh. The producer of the film Rust is confident that they'll finish the film after shooting investigation, but there is no actual plan. This is coming out from the producer of the film Rust, the Western film starring Alec Baldwin. It had some controversy last year when a cinematographer was tragically shot and killed on set. The film has been in essentially deep freeze ever since. And producer Anjul Nagam came out recently to EW and said he thinks that he's confident they'll be able to complete the movie. Apparently, this was not a statement of fact. This is a statement of feeling. He just thinks they'll be able to complete it, but there seems to be some intention to knock this thing out. Andy, I shouldn't laugh. Like, what do you think? Like, this is not, I don't know.
I mean,
It's not
films
good,
are
right?
expensive endeavors, and a lot of people have put money into this. Alec Baldwin, I'm sure private investors or other studio money. They're going to want to return on that investment. You can't just shut it. Like, if they shut down, they'll lose 100% of everything. If they figure out a way to finish it, then at least they can try and who's not going to watch it? I'm definitely going to watch it because I'm going to be like, this is before.
Right. Is this the shot? Is this the shot where it happened? Right. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, at this point, it's a historical thing at this point, like
any scene in that film where Baldwin shoots a gun in a church, you're going to be thinking that's the scene. This was the one. Like, it's going to have this energy around it. It's cursed.
Yeah. I mean, it's like watching, Heath Ledger's last film, The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, which he only half finished. They just had to figure out a way to get through it, and they did. And it's a bizarre film, and I've watched it a couple times. Yeah, like everyone's gonna see it. I don't know who's gonna get it. Maybe it goes to Netflix, but everyone's gonna want to watch just to see what this whole thing was about, no matter how mediocre this movie might be. But I mean, I think there's just probably too much money wrapped up into it, and they're like, we got to finish this thing and try to sell it to someone.
Yeah, like it's got this weird energy around it. It's like Brandon Lee in The Crow, right?
Yep.
When they had to film the last bit of that movie without him, or even like that John Candy movie, Gone West, like where he passed away like a few days before the end of the shoot. They had to like matte paint him in and like pull some weird, like it's just weird, Like and
Bruce Lee is the same thing.
Yeah, I think they do the same thing with Bruce Lee and Brent. Really? I think they did do that. Yeah. Bruce Lee was
Yeah,
like, yeah,
he had filmed the very end of Game of Death, like just the end fight scenes, and they
yeah.
hadn't filmed any of the rest of it. But
God.
so they had filmed, so they had the very end of the movie and the rest of it, and they just do like, oh, they just alter the script to be like, oh, you have to be in disguise, and so
Yeah,
there's
didn't
like
they,
these
didn't they do a
big
guy with
wigs.
sunglasses? Yeah,
Yeah,
or
there's a
something.
whole
Yeah,
lot of that.
yeah. Oh God. I don't know. Like, you're right. You said it at the top. Like, movies are expensive, right? You don't just trash that, like, just because something went wrong on set. Like, they probably shot over half this movie. Why not finish it up? They had to get those sets. It takes a lot to put one of these things together. But I don't know. This is supposed to be the first movie from this new studio, Persona Entertainment. The other film coming out is now called False Awakening. Like, they don't sound like particularly juicy features. Maybe it'd be okay to just let this one sit on the cutting room floor. A lot of media has been lost to time. Like, that's okay. I don't
Yeah,
know if the world
with
needs to see
the
Rust,
right
and it just feels
thing.
weird releasing it.
The right thing would be to just stop. Exactly, you're right. Like everyone go home, pay out your contracts. We're
Listen,
we're
yeah,
done.
yep.
It was a
You,
tragedy
you,
because
yeah,
then you memorialize, be like, this was a horrible thing. We're not going to continue this. We
sure.
can't move on emotionally.
Yeah,
We're stuck.
leave the first half of it on a hard drive somewhere. Let somebody upload it to YouTube in 30 years. Like,
But
just don't.
but because there's, like I said, probably a lot of money wrapped up in it, and you're stand to lose all of it if you don't complete the project.
Yeah,
They're gonna make it happen.
there's a lot of people hoping to get paid. Like, that's usually a thing in movies. You get paid when the box office returns come back. So if the movie doesn't get made, you don't get paid, and that's an issue. So I don't know. That's Rust. Lastly, a little bit of Star Wars news. This week, Kathleen Kennedy, the head of the Star Wars division of Disney, sat down with Vanity Fair and gave a really interesting interview about the future of Star Wars. And there's a lot of good stuff in here. And unfortunately, I don't pay for a Vanity Fair subscription, so I didn't link the Vanity Fair. I've got IndieWire here. I've got knockoff Vanity Fair. I just wanted to review kind of a few things that were talked about. And the first thing, most importantly, to me at least, Kathleen Kennedy cited the failures of Solo on the back of essentially its young actor Alden Ehrenreich, by saying that Solo was a bomb, and that they shouldn't ever try to recast Star Wars fan favorites. Disney should never go out of its way to try to cast a younger version of an older Star Wars actor or actress. And Andy and I, the tremendous
Fervently
misread.
disagree. Fervently.
Yeah. Horribly misread. Really, really odd. Andy, can you explain to the good people at home why that's wrong?
So yes, there are fan favorites, which I think is a problem that people can't get over certain actors. At this point, Star Wars is kind of entering the realm of like kind of how comics are, something like Batman, where we have different actors playing Batman every 5 to 10 years, different Jokers, and you just kind of, it's like Shakespeare. You just recast those same parts. But for some reason, Disney is deathly afraid of recasting anyone. And Solo is just kind of a weird movie. It's not a particularly good one, and that's why it was a bomb. It was like you made a bad movie, and it bombed because it's bad, not because you didn't have a good lead. Like you could have had. I mean, they went on this huge search and decided on Alden Ehrenreich. It could have been anyone. Like it really doesn't matter. It's not like It's not like the Joker. It's not like this incredible performance that you got to squeeze out of out of thinner. You're playing a rough cowboy loner type like that. 1,000 actors could do that. This definitely wasn't Alden Ehrenreich's fault.
Yeah, like one of the things I like the most about Alden Ehrenreich's performance in Solo is that he wasn't trying to play Harrison Ford playing Han Solo. He was just trying to do his own read of Han Solo, roughly within a framework that obviously is Harrison Ford-esque. Like, it felt a lot better because it stood on its own and it worked as a performance that would be separate in time from young Harrison Ford when you see him in Episode 6 piloting the Millennium Falcon. It was fine. I'd say the same for Donald Glover playing Lando. Given he definitely leans a bit more on the Billy D. Williams like sass, but for what it's worth, like, I don't
Everyone
see.
loved him.
Yeah, neither of them were the problem. Like, that wasn't the problem with Solo. The problem was you hired Phil Lord and Chris Miller to make the movie, and they shot it, a lot of it improv-esque, in a tribute to kind of Han Solo's Maverick style, and you guys didn't like it and then bailed and hired Ron Howard to try to fix it. Like, that was the core issue with that movie. And it's frustrating because this is the studio that's putting deepfake Mark Hamill in The Mandalorian, right? Like, this is the studio that's going to have a body double stand in for young Luke Skywalker, and then you're going to deepfake his face on, which is okay, I guess. But at some point, like, it's just distracting.
Yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with casting young actors and actresses for older performances.
I guarantee you, if you don't want to move on and do something new, which Disney is deathly afraid of also doing, then don't be afraid to just go back to the well, but recast. Like I've said this a bunch. Do you do like the young adventures of Luke Skywalker and recast all your favorites with modern actors, and like people will get over it. Yeah, I mean, you'll have certain nerds madly typing away on their keyboards, but so what? Everyone's still going to go, and everyone's still going to watch it. And at the end of the day, Solo was just a bad movie. It was very mediocre, forgettable. Like, make a good Western, make a great space Western, and it'll be fine.
Yeah. Additionally, other things that were mentioned in this Vanity Fair article were the idea that the future of Star Wars will be televised, right? Streaming is the way they want to move forward. There's going to be some films upcoming, but that seems kind of unsteady for now. To hear Kathleen Kennedy talk about it, Rian Johnson is no longer doing a trilogy of Star Wars films, or that's on hold. Apparently this was announced in 2019, but I don't recall it. David Benioff and DB Weiss, the creators of HBO's Game of Thrones, are no longer associated with Star Wars. That's apparently some older news from 2019. I mean, Taika Waititi's supposed to have a Star Wars movie coming out sometime between Thor: Love and Thunder and his next Vanity project, which he's going to be doing immediately after that. Patty Jenkins is supposed to make a Star Wars movie somewhere between Wonder Woman and Cleopatra, but I don't know when she's going to do that. She's doing Wonder Woman 3. I don't know what they're doing next. And Kathleen Kennedy wants to stray away from terms like trilogy, because she said Star Wars is a ever-growing piece of
ever-present storytelling.
Yes, ever-present storytelling. They're doing the Marvel thing, right, Andy? I'm not crazy.
Yeah, they're looking at like 5-year arcs, 10-year arcs. Things bigger than 3 movies, but yeah, I don't know how Marvel is so organized and how they've managed to stay on track for so long. Because most movies, they get derailed by this thing or that, and it throws off the schedule. And like Marvel, they like all these movies have to come out in specific order to more or less make sense of the larger timelines. And like Star Wars can't put together 2 films back to back that are coherent. They've had a hard time making one film that's a coherent story and not just fan service. I think Rogue One's probably the strongest of the new Star Wars films that were made in the last 5 years or so.
Yeah. I'm particularly upset by the news about Rian Johnson might not. I mean, they say he might still do it. He might still make the trilogy, but I mean, Kennedy seemed to be really vocal about his success with Knives Out, and those are both movies going straight to Netflix. Knives Out 2 and 3 are going to Netflix. They bought it from Rian Johnson for like $500 million. So that's what he's doing right now. He's making 2 Netflix movies. He's got his own thing going on. I'm bummed because it feels like the further we get away from it, it seems like he's going to be the talent that Star Wars really could have had that it lost, and it's a bummer that it seems like he's not going to be too associated with it anymore. But I mean, their loss, I guess. This is what happens when you don't plan a damn trilogy and you just start putting it together.
Yeah, I was saying this before the show. I mean, people want to criticize, The Last Jedi, and it scared the fans, it made $1.3 billion. That's a massively successful movie. Yeah. So like you don't have to please the fans. You can say, okay, get over this, nerds, and move on. Because that's what I love about Rian Johnson. Like in an interview, you hear him talking about that. He just starts to laugh. He's like, oh, your childhood, boo-hoo. Like, he's just like, no, let's move on and do exciting things.
Yeah, his brashness definitely didn't help in interviews, but for what it's worth, Last Jedi is aging like a fine wine, at least currently. I was just reading an article a few weeks ago that I posted.
Ruin Johnson.
About how Star Wars fans were looking back and being like, actually, it's kind of nice to see a movie that I couldn't predict, and like, man, it was cool to see surprises in the theater again. You're not going to get that with Star Wars for a little while, so I don't know. It's weird. If I was Kathleen Kennedy, I'd be concerned for my profession, but she's also the head of Star Wars, so I'm sure she's fine. She's not going anywhere. But
yeah, I mean, like the TV shows are doing great. The merchandising's doing great.
Yeah.
It might be doing better on TV than it is in film at this point.
Well, on the other side of the fence, like I said, I do want to talk about Marvel, but we're going to do that in between our reviews. We have been talking about news for a while, and we should get to it. So I'm going to take the summary on our first film. Please excuse any clumsy delivery of mine. The movie is Firestarter. So Firestarter is a direct Peacock film. This is straight to streaming. Well, it's also out in theaters too. I take it back, but watching the film, it feels like a movie that's straight to streaming. It is the story of a young girl and her two parents who are on the run from a mysterious government-like organization, if it's not actually the government. The film stars Zac Efron as the lead father, Andy, Ryan Kira Armstrong as Charlie McGee, our young fire starter, Sydney Lemon as the wife Vicky, and Michael Greyeyes as a hitman named Rainbird, or really like a mercenary. It is a 90-minute romp. It is a Stephen King story, so you know it's a little spooky, bit of horror. And God, I didn't. Well, no, I think I did a decent job explaining what we're getting into. Andy, what do you think of Firestarter?
So someone sent me a thing that this was 13% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, which is extremely
12%.
low.
I think I sent you that.
Even lower. No, even lower. Because the first one I saw was 13%.
Oh god.
And it had dropped even from when you but we have to remember that Rotten Tomatoes is an aggregator, and people often think of it as like a grade, like A, B, C, D, E, F.
Yes.
And so you think, oh, you made a 10 out of 100. No, it's just 90% of the people didn't like the film. That's right. How it is. So I went in with pretty low expectations. And I just thought it was fine. I thought it had good bones, and I think it had good structure and a lot of potential. Its biggest issue is that it's made on a TV movie budget. Everything's done on the cheap. The locations, most of your supporting cast, the effects. There's a lot of potential to have done some really exciting storytelling here. I think if you would have done this movie on like a $30 to $40 million budget, you could have gotten something really pretty special. But for what it is, I think it's fine. There's some cringy moments. There's some laugh out loud things. But overall, like I thought it was fine. Like, and I had a fun time watching it. It's not too long. The original is apparently really slow and a full 2 hours. So this was a quick, like 95 minutes.
Yes. The original, did you ever see the original film? I never did.
No, I maybe at some point or another. I've never.
Yeah, it came out in '84. You might remember it starred young Drew Barrymore, like hot off the heels of E.T. So she's like, little baby Drew Barrymore, and she was the fire starter. She was, the posters got her hair blown up and the fire in the back. I don't know. I feel like if you saw it, you'd recognize it, but I never saw it either. I didn't know what I was getting into, and it was gonna be a little kooky because it's Stephen King, and it's like '80s King. So this is like before he got hit by a van and was still like madly doing coke and blowing out like 26 pages of writing a day. So like, it's going to get a little weird, and it does. There's like a secret organization, right? You got these people on the run. There's
very 80s
powers. Yeah. Very, very, very 80s. Almost a little MK Ultra CIA paranoia kind of stuff. And that's fine. I think King does that stuff well. The script's a little wacky, but it's adapted from the original story. And again, that's coming from the fingers of an absolute maniac. I think you're right. Where the money is spent here is on Zac Efron and Ryan Kira Armstrong. I didn't know Ryan Kira Armstrong did a season of American Horror Story. So she's got some horror under her belt. And she was also in It Chapter 2, which is also a Stephen King adaptation. So she's got some experience. And Efron obviously can carry a role as a father. But other than that, like, it's pretty chill. You have Kurtwood Smith in a very brief role. He's only in one scene, and then he's got some VO. I thought he was going to be more relevant, but other than that, it's pretty much all unheard of. So the director, Keith Thomas, this is his second feature film after a movie he made in 2019 called The Vigil, which is another very small indie horror. Didn't have a lot of success, but I don't know. I feel like I heard some rumblings about it back in the day. It's pretty tight, and that makes Firestarter on Peacock a made for cable movie. It's like a do your laundry in the afternoon kind of film. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like you totally. Can get up and go throw some laundry in the wash and come back, and you wouldn't have missed a whole lot. Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Andy?
Yeah, unfortunately, it is that kind of movie that you can be on your phone half the time. Yeah. And like I said, it's just kind of simplistic in its premise, and it's I think the performances are fine, and there are some moments where I was like, if this were done on a bigger budget, it would be really great. I'm not familiar with the original novel, but the father, played by Zac Efron, is telekinetic or a psychic of some sort himself. And the only issue is whenever he uses his power, which he says a push, like he kind of force people to do things, a Jedi mind trick, essentially. He can push people, but it hurts him, and he does this thing where his like blood will come out of his eyes, and it's pretty rad. And I was like, this could have been something like
Yeah.
on the high budget, better makeup and costume and stuff. This could have been like, so you could have had even better horror stuff.
Yeah.
And,
Go ahead.
yeah, and we also get some of those with the fire. I mean, fire is a very incredibly destructive thing, and we get some, so some pretty rad effects, but again, on a bigger budget, it could have really been something shocking for the audience.
Yeah, and I think this film feels like it should be a part of something larger. I was surprised to find when I told people I was watching this for the show, there were a lot of people who were like, "Is that a movie?" Because they thought it might be a series. I did too when I originally saw like the trailer for this. I felt like this was going to be like a 6 or 8 episodes something, and it feels like in times that's what it should be.
Yeah.
Because the film often kind of just moves through scenes very efficiently. Like you said, Andy, our father, played by Zac Efron, is psychic. His wife, Vicky, is also telekinetic, and their daughter has powers as well. So the first like 20, 25 minutes of Firestarter start strong because you're kind of figuring out where they got these powers from and what association they have with this shop. They're living like completely off the grid, no Wi-Fi, no cell phones. The daughter doesn't understand why. So like that first act is kind of a bit of a family drama, and it's surrounded by like these mysterious powers that each one of them has. Andy uses it as his job as a life coach to kind of encourage people to stop smoking or whatever, to push them mentally. His wife just, I don't know, I don't think she has a job. She just kind of stays home and takes care of Charlie. And Charlie, the daughter, is going to school and trying to manage this like feeling that she's trying to stuff down that she has this ability. And that starts off pretty well and good, but then it gets moving really fast because after a flare up, no pun intended, of Charlie's power at school, a mercenary shows up named Rainbeard, who is a
Rainbird,
Rainbird. I'm sorry, Rainbeard. Jesus, Rainbird. Yes, shows
which has
up.
got to be the lamest assassin moniker.
Well, like it's like 80s King, right? Like I can't. Yeah, like it was made. If this was an original screenplay, I'd say, oh, this is awful. But like it's, I get it. Like it's
that would have been the perfect time to tie into the greater Stephen King universe.
Yeah,
name him something from somewhere else.
It's true. Rainbird is played by an actor named Michael Grey Eyes. He is actually Native American, which is cool. He's indigenous. He's an indigenous person, which apparently the original role was supposed to be. That's how it is in the book. And then the 1984 film cast George C. Scott in the role, who is not at all Native American. So I think fans of at least the original work were pleased with that. If you've read Firestarter, that might be something to look forward to. He arrives at the family house and says, "Well, I've got to take your daughter. She's got to come to the organization that's called the Shop in the movie. She's got to come to the shop with us." And that's where they break out and take off on the run. And from there, it kind of turns into like a clumsy sort of road movie where they don't really get on the road or do anything. And then it quickly leads to a like kind of clumsy third act. It's confrontational and people use their powers. And like that's really the problem. I think the first half of the movie kind of works and then it just kind of gets thin. But you do get a lot of, go ahead.
Right. I haven't read the novel, but a big complaint of Stephen King is that he'll come up with these great premises and great beginnings of stories, and then he like doesn't know how to end it. Like Pet Sematary is a great example of that, where he can come up with the premise of the supernatural, but then even it is a little bit of that same way. And we have that here too, where there's kind of this big action sequence, but and our main character just kind of comes into her own, becomes comfortable with her powers. I feel like this is a queer analogy, by the way. Fire starting. And but yeah, it's very cliche. It's very 80s in that, like, the secret government entities coming after you. That trope has kind of evolved a lot more into something more like the surveillance state. But this idea of like a bunch of white vans, like an ET, coming to chase you down, is very old school and dated, and that probably needed an update.
Yeah. As far as the filmmaking goes, it's really simply shot. There's not a lot of like really interesting camera movement. It's pretty safe lockdown shots with good medium coverage, simple lighting, lots of studio sets. It is cool to see Zac Efron do his thing, and the effects are decent, I should say. The eye bleeding thing is kind of cool. I do like the way the push is kind of put together on screen visually. It's very subtle. And I think the fire stuff is good, right? Like anything where fire's exploding on screen is rad. And there's a couple scenes at the end where Charlie is really getting to know her powers, and she is just like throwing flames on screen, and like that stuff is clearly, that's clearly some dedication. Additionally, it's worth mentioning the score for this film might be the best thing about it. The score for this film is by John Carpenter,
Yeah, baby.
director of The Thing and Halloween. He has done a lot of scores for his own films. He did the score most recently for Halloween Kills. And he was supposed to be apparently the director of the 1984 Firestarter. He wanted to do it and he was stoked to do it and he had a whole vision for it. And then his 1983 film, The Thing, came out and bombed at the box office, which has since gone on to be a cult classic, but it bombed and the studio got freaked and they pulled Carpenter off the project. So he never did it. Somehow he got involved with doing the music for this one. It's great. Like I would go listen to the soundtrack on Spotify. the music for Firestarter is very good. Very synth, very 80s, very dark. Like yeah, good stuff. Any thoughts on the filmmaking and the soundtrack, Andy?
I did really enjoy the soundtrack, and I did see when I saw that it was John Carpenter, I was like, makes total sense. Again, some of the I think one of the issues I do have is that our titular Firestarter she's kind of overpowered. She like kind of
she's a little OP. She needs a nerf.
yeah, totally. Yeah, because once she kind of gets angry and just starts setting everyone on fire, like you can't really stop her. And so I feel like you needed to introduce some sort of like conflict or something that she couldn't do or something that she couldn't overcome just by fire alone. But that's it's a writing issue.
The movie does not spend a lot of time explaining like the value of her power. The people who work at the shop definitely seem concerned, like, oh, she could be the one, man, to like, to set off a nuke with her mind or something. And like that's great, but like they don't make any effort to explain how they would know that. Like, how would you know this one particular psychic is the danger? You know what I mean? Like, couldn't any of them be? Is it because she's the daughter of two psychics? Like how would you know if you got, I don't know. So like I'm not sure how they put that together exactly. It's a little thin. Yeah, it's just real paint by numbers.
It's the same issue in kind of like Stranger Things. It's like, well, what was your plan with the with all these experiments and scientific what was your end goal?
Right. Why were you doing
evil, either than be evil?
Yeah, it doesn't really do a good job of explaining itself. And it's funny because Stranger Things obviously is inspired by Stephen King, and Stephen King's current cinematic works or adaptations are very much inspired by Stranger Things. You saw that in It, you see that in this movie a little bit. It's not really Stranger Things-esque, but I don't know. I can appreciate the modernization of the idea. It just feels a little clumsy sometimes, but for what it's worth, Firestarter works, right? If you have Peacock already, if you're already paying $5 for that for Peacock, then yeah, Firestarter's for you, man. Go ahead. I cannot say this would be a fun experience in the theater. God, I feel like I'd be bored watching this on the big screen. It's just not very cinematic.
I'd be mad that I paid money to see it.
Yeah, that's the reason I ended up subbing for Peacock. Peacock is $4.99 for the premium membership, which I thought, well, that's cheaper than a movie ticket, and that's how these services get you. At least the small ones. That's what they do to draw you in. Hey, it's cheaper than a movie ticket. You get a month's worth of content. Why not pay it now and see if you like it? And I can tell you with confidence, I don't. Peacock sucks. If you like The Office or Parks and Rec, Peacock is the platform for you. Other than that, I see no value over there. I don't know what they've got. Like, I guess they're still building. I did hear, speaking of Ryan Johnson, I did hear he's got a show he's in the works on over there, like some show he's creating and executive producing. So, I guess they're building their content. But dude, for now, I would not encourage you to go get Peacock for this movie. Like, it's not. I don't know. I don't think it's.
This is a little bit related to the streaming, but I was browsing through Amazon Prime last night, and they have a category now called Freebie, which is movies with ads.
Oh,
And
great. Yeah.
and
Commercial
of
breaks in the
course,
middle of my film.
it's the good stuff. It's the stuff that you would want to see and probably put up with, like Logan, for instance, was one of the ones on there.
Oh,
Like
you got James Mangold film on there, you bastards.
yeah,
All
it's
right.
like, oh man, like yeah, I would really want to watch that, but now I gotta.
Right.
And it's not even they don't have Amazon Prime doesn't have like an ad tier. You're just like, you want to watch it,
Yeah.
you're gonna be watching ads.
Right. You get in here and get ads. Dude, I gotta know. Quick thing. This is not at all related to films, but regarding streaming services and advertising, I hopped on an American Airlines flight the other day, and they were like, "Hop on the Wi-Fi. You can watch free movies and entertainment or whatever." And movie and
No,
selection
you can't.
aside,
No, you can't.
the second you get on the Wi-Fi, you are forced to watch a 30-second ad for Marriott, and all I could think was like, "Oh my god, they're running 30-second ads on the Wi-Fi for every single person that flies their airlines every day." Good God, the advertising money they're making off this garbage! I couldn't believe it. No option to skip. No option to cancel. Had to watch it. Ugh. Yeah. Anyway, I guess we should get down to it. Andy, any of those for recommendations?
I think I'm ready.
Would you recommend Firestarter?
I would say save it for streaming. I would say if you're a fan of Stephen King or if you're a fan of the original and want to see how they've updated it, it's not near as bad as it's again reflected in Rotten Tomatoes. It's a coherent film with 3-act structure, midpoint. The characters are fine. It's all done on a cheap budget. The writing isn't as good as it could be. The effects and setting, and it doesn't have the true Hollywood treatment. If it is, we'd have a much better movie. So it was fine. Otherwise, I'd say skip it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. If you already pay for Peacock Premium, this is not like an additional expense you need to take on. That's right, take on your life. Go for it. Sure, it's 90 minutes. It'll be relaxed. Your parents will like watching it with you. Firestarter, it's fine. Do not go out of your way to spend money for this movie. Like it's mid is what it is. It's super mid. It's just okay. It's just okay. It is a C plus. Like it's not even really a horror movie. That's the genre we've got listed. It's the genre IMDb listed, but like it's not scary. It's fine. Yeah, I would encourage you to go seek out other Stephen King adaptations. I'd tell you to watch Pet Sematary over this. Like at least Pet Sematary feels a little more cinematic and in its finer moments. At least those woods out in Pet Cemetery are creepy, Like
yeah, at least
kinda, yeah.
That's a great analogy because Pet Cemetery is. That movie's got a lot of problems, but at least it's done. It's given the Hollywood treatment.
It's got a little tone. Yeah, like, okay. Jason Clarke's all right. Yeah, John Lithgow's okay. There's a couple decent, there's a little bit scarier than this. Yeah, that's Firestarter. It's all right. And shout out to really quickly, shout out to the wonderful fans on Twitter. I mentioned last night that we were going to be reviewing this, and I was told, "Wow, you're braver than me." I would never pay for Peacock to watch this movie. I don't think you need to. I really think it should have been a series. Like if they could have taken this property, expanded a little bit, made it 6 or 8 episodes, maybe if it took off, make a season 2. Like I think that would have been much more attractive, like much sexier than just Firestarter, the 90-minute film.
If you don't have the money to do it on the Hollywood budget, I think doing a series would have made more sense.
Mm-hmm. The lack of like cinematic tone, I think, would have worked better in that format. That's just me. Anyway, next up we have a segment I'm very excited to talk about. Andy, you want to take the title on this one?
It's time for the death of cinema.
So go ahead.
We're going to be talking about this article that came out in Variety this week. Where is the Marvel Cinematic Universe going? Only Kevin Feige knows for sure.
Yes. I found this article earlier this week. I sent it to Andy feverishly one night. I was like, Andy, we need to talk about this in the show. I think this is great. There's not a lot to this headline, but when you start to look under the hood, it starts to get interesting. And I think that's why I want to talk about what's happening here. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is in a funny spot between what they've got coming out in theaters, what they have coming to streaming, upcoming projects in the past. These movies and shows are all dedicated to interweaving storytelling, right? What is it? Catherine Kennedy?
Ever present.
Yes, ever-present storytelling, right? The Marvel universe all has to lead into something. So if we have Captain America in one movie, we're gonna have him either nodded to or acknowledged or pointed at, or maybe even appearing in the next movie, right? We've got to build these properties on top of themselves. And for the past, 25-ish or so movies, Marvel's done a pretty good job of doing this in its previous phases. But now we are in what Disney and Marvel call phase 4, right? This is right around when COVID started. We've transitioned into a new world following the Avengers Endgame, or really a drastically different one than we used to know. And now we have a lot of characters doing a lot of different things. And Marvel is building up its new properties by introducing new young actors and actresses to the genre, and bringing in new people and new heroes and finding new folks. But it's all a little disparate. And it might even be a little disconnected. And we've talked about on the last couple shows that, like, it doesn't seem like they've got a really central direction they're running in, because out of all of these movies and shows that Marvel has come out with since 2019, almost all of them end in different places, and none of them seem to be leading to any kind of central problem. See, Avengers, the 6th film in the Marvel franchise, ended, at least in its post-credit scene, with Thanos. So any comic book fan in the theater could have gone, oh, that's Thanos, and you could have gone home and Googled it, and that's Thanos. Its 10th film, Guardians of the Galaxy, ended with the Infinity Stones, and told us that Thanos is looking for the Infinity Stones. All right, so 4 movies after you see Thanos, you see the Infinity Stones. Now you know what he wants. And the next 10 films all led into or pointed at or drove our characters towards Thanos finding the Infinity Stones, building up to Avengers Infinity War, followed by Avengers Endgame, and had a very satisfying, overarching feeling that all of it was connected and that all of it was going somewhere. But now Marvel has like 11 new properties out since then, and all of them end with different characters and different motivations, and none of them seem to tie into each other. It's kind of bananas. So, Andy, I've been talking about this a lot. Any thoughts before I jump into these actual? I want to run down the list here, like movies and shows, who's in them and where they're going. Because when you start to listen to them, it's nuts.
So, what's amazing about Marvel Phase 1 is that we got to Avengers in essentially 5 films. Like Incredible Hulk kind of doesn't count. That was just kind of leftover. That wasn't really, I don't think, part of the larger plan. It just kind of, they shoved it in there. But we also had basically 1 movie a year when we first started. Iron Man and then Iron Man 2 were the only films, Marvel films, come out that year. And then we got Thor and Captain America, and by film 5 we're in the group film. And we had introduced people like Black Widow and Iron Man 2. We got in some of these side characters, and now we're 4 films into phase 4.
Marvel, here's the count.
Marvel has released what we're doing.
Yes, Marvel has released 11 different properties in 18 months. And 10 of them have separate narrative threads that don't lead into each other yet. It's 10 different threads. Only 2 have actually led into one another, which I'll get into in a second. It's too much. And it seems like they don't know what they're doing. Like, maybe they do. There is a thread at the center of all of it. I want to get into that, but you mind if I just start hitting these?
Go ahead.
Is that all right with you? Perfect. So these are our light spoilers for the previous Marvel properties in Phase 4. I doubt you care that much, but if you're really concerned, skip about 5 minutes ahead, and I'll be past all this. First off, in order of release, the Falcon and Winter Soldier Disney Plus streaming series ends with fake Captain America and fake Nick Fury, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who are hiring Florence Pugh's character to go kill Hawkeye, right? So that's 2 new antagonists, and Florence Pugh's character is a new hero. The Hawkeye show ends with Florence Pugh showing up, and also Wilson Fisk from the Daredevil Netflix show showing up, implying that you're bringing the Daredevil character, Charlie Cox, back, who also shows up in No Way Home in a brief cameo. Loki ends with Kang the Conqueror and an alternate Loki, and also the TVA, which is a whole like traveling through time organization that has not been referenced in any of these other properties. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings ends with Shang-Chi and his wonderful sidekick going with one of the Doctor Strange characters through a portal to find out more about the Ten Rings, which are alien, and he implies that they're going to some kind of cosmos or something. They're calling out to the cosmos, is what he says. Eternals ends with a bunch of gods and a giant stone obelisk like planted on Earth, and they're going to figure stuff out. Spider-Man No Way Home has people forgetting about our lead character, but Spider-Man's still being a thing. Moon Knight seemingly has no connection to any of this at all, but is totally its own thing. Multiverse of Madness introduces a new character right at the end. And then we also have Mrs. Marvel coming up. Miss Marvel. We've got Thor, Love and Thunder coming around the corner. All of these seem to be narrative threads that aren't going anywhere. And it's like, wait a second, like what are the Eternals doing? Well, hold on. At the end of the Eternals, they mentioned the Black Knight and Blade. When's he coming in, if at all? Right? Like, I can't keep up with everybody anymore. And there's no way people are doing this either. Eternals also has Thanos' brother Harry Styles show up, which is supposed to be a thing at some point. I don't know, Andy. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of properties that they could be developed as their own, short 3 to 5 film arc or something. But yeah, like I said, we're missing an overall plan. Like in phase one, it ends with Avengers 1. Phase 2 ends with Avengers 2. Phase 3 ends with, the big Infinity War Endgame saga. Like we were going places, and now we're, like I said, 4 films in, if you count Black Widow, Spider-Man.
God,
I'm missing one.
Shang-Chi, Eternals,
and Eternals. Yeah, and now Doctor Strange, and that's five films. That's 5 films right there, and we have no idea what the overall large plan. There is talk of Kang the Conqueror being
right. It felt like from Loki, Kang the Conqueror was going to be the thing, right? Like that seemed to be.
But he doesn't get introduced until next summer in the third Ant-Man movie.
Quantumania, right, which is coming, is introducing a new character similar to America Chavez in Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. There's like 8 different potential big bads here. Kang, you got Julia Louis-Dreyfus' Valentina, Arishem from Moon Knight, Kingpin from Daredevil. Somebody said Dormammu from the Multiverse, which I thought they handled at Doctor Strange 1. There's like a bunch of different potential antagonists. Like it doesn't feel like there's any grand design to tie all of these together. And like in the older Marvel movies, it was a lot easier. You just had like the Tesseract, right? That was the thing for like 6 movies. Like you'd see that thing show up and you're like, oh, hey, there's that thing. Like it was very simple, but this seems to be, I don't know, at least an issue for people trying to keep up like us. Somebody, Variety points out here that this could be a feature, not a bug. Maybe Marvel's just not going to try to keep all of this together. Maybe they're just going to run in every direction and have a content rich, approach. I don't know, man.
It just
I think
they don't.
I think people get
doing.
fatigued. Yeah, it doesn't seem like a strong long-term strategy to me.
Yeah, if anything, it also seems like they're getting together a bunch of very young heroes for a potential like junior Avengers, or I forget what they're actually called, but people like America Chavez, Kid Loki, other one of the people mentioned in Falcon Winter Soldier. So that's another direction. But again, that's all speculation. There's been nothing in the films to point to like, well, this is our overall plan.
Yes. That's Variety mentions that as well. The one conceivable thread through all of these is likely some kind of young Avengers characters like America Chavez from Doctor Strange, as well as like, Wanda Maximoff's 2 kids, Tommy and Billy. Maybe Kid Loki. Yeah. Kate Bishop's character, Haley Steinfeld's character, Kate Bishop, and Hawkeye, Florence Pugh's new character, kind of a follow Black Widow. Like that could all be going somewhere, and they may be facing off against somebody like Kang the Conqueror, but
yawn.
Yeah, it just seems messy,
Well,
like you have so many different angles. You got Venom in the Spider-Man universe now, according to a post-credit scene. You got Morbius floating out there. Have you seen this new meme? It's Morbin time. It's my favorite new thing.
The other thing is, what's happening to our A-list characters? Like, did they all just retire? Like, where is our next Iron Man or Iron Person film? What
are we doing? Like
Captain America, like
it doesn't seem like Chris Hemsworth's going to do many more Thor movies. Guardians, this is their last one. Guardians 3 will be it. That seems very clear from the people who work on that movie. I mean, yeah, I don't see Tom Hiddleston making a whole lot more Loki, right? You probably get a couple more seasons or a movie out of him, and then he's going to be like, I got to go do other stuff. This setup, this like soft handoff thing they're doing is just kind of confusing. And I think a lot of times if you're trying to make persistent content, you want to make it easy for consumers to see the through line. Like you need to be able to kind of quickly make decisions at the box office, decide what you want to spend your money on. And if it's confusing, it's going to be a lot easier to go see some mid-budget something than it is to see some complicated 28th film in the Marvel movie continuation of a plot line nobody can keep up with. I don't know. It just feels loose, Andy. And I think that's worth talking about.
Yeah, well, and it's not even following the way comics do, because comics will have, their individual titles, which will have their own storyline, and then they'll have like the group up events, like Justice League things. There's a thing called Dark Crisis happening starting next month. That's going to be a big event, and it's going to combine all your characters. Like, we don't really have any of that happening, or at least it's not clearly happening. But we also don't really see where our individual properties are going. Like, I couldn't really see what the next step is in Multiverse of Madness, for instance. Like, I don't really know where we're going just in that series alone.
Yeah. And it's important to remember Multiverse of Madness was put out of order. That was supposed to come out before Spider-Man No Way Home. And it's weird because when you think about the ending to Spider-Man No Way Home, when they're having what Marvel defines as an incursion event and two universes are crashing into each other and cracking and things are coming over, that would have been a bigger deal if we'd seen Multiverse of Madness first. Like filming these movies later and putting them out of order and adding scenes in the second act to try to tie them together and make it work, it's clumsy. And like it implies there's a lack of direction. And yes, this is Marvel who put together phases 1 through 3, but this is also Disney, the studio that bungled Star Wars. I don't know. It's just weird. So I don't know. Keep an eye on Marvel, I guess. I don't know what they're doing next, but whatever it's going to be, I guess we're going to watch it if it's in the theater. So, yeah.
Yeah. Again, Multiverse of Madness has been it's made $700 million in 2 weeks. It's probably going to be $1 billion property or close to it. I mean, the superhero stuff is still really huge. So even if they don't exactly have a plan, we're still going to go and watch it.
Yeah, we sure are. So that's it. I just wanted to talk about kind of where Marvel's at. It pairs really nicely with that Star Wars bit of news from earlier. Disney has got some stuff to sort out, but whatever happens, they're going to be continue killing it on streaming services. So good for them. Good for the House of Mouse. With that, we should move on to our final review of the episode. I'm excited to talk about this one. This is a movie I thought we had done on the podcast, and then we went back and looked and confirmed we never did. But we both seen it, and it was really a fun rewatch. So Andy's going to take the summer on it. Andy, please take it away.
Ex Machina. So in preparation for the new horror film Men, which comes out this Friday, directed by Alex Garland, we decided to take a trip down cinema lane and review his very first film from 2014, Ex Machina, which stars Domhnall Gleeson, Alicia Vikander, and Oscar Isaac. So Alex Garland is also probably best known for the writer of 28 Days Later. And so
I didn't know that. I that was a good find here.
Exactly. He's done a lot of horror writing. In the last 8 years or so has gotten into directing. So his first film stars, like I said, Domhnall Gleeson plays this young software engineer who wins some sort of lottery thing at his very big, like Facebook-esque, Google-esque company. He gets flown out via helicopter to a remote location to meet the founder and self-proclaimed like genius, played by Oscar Isaac, named Nathan. Who's very much this combination of like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, kind of self-absorbed tech guy, and he doesn't really know what he's doing out there. Domhnall Gleeson's character Caleb, he just know that he's won this thing. He's out here. He's going to meet the founder, and they're
to spend a week with the founder. Yeah, whatever that means. Yeah.
And finally, he's like, "Well, what are we doing out here?" And he's been essentially chosen to test an AI, like Oscar Isaac's character said, I've built kind of the next phase of human evolution. I've built what I believe to be what might be an AI, but we have to test it. It has to pass the Turing test to see, can it convince you that it's more than a machine? The AI is played by Alicia Vikander and is named Ava and is a android, very humanoid robot that has these cool, like see-through arms and torso. And they have dialogue, they have meetings, and it's not super clear what's supposed to be happening or how they're supposed to be testing. But we know not all is right in this setting. Something's not quite right. There's something not quite right about Nathan and the situation. And Caleb is very suspicious about what's going on, but at the same time, he's just amazed to be in the presence of this founder of their giant tech company. So that's our setup. Zach, what'd you think?
So like I said, we both seen this film previously for rental. Pay you can put in your library card number. You can. Movie's an interesting rewatch. I was glad to sit back and rewatch it. I actually feel like I saw some seams. I saw problems in it. But I also saw things that I really appreciated much more in its music and its tone, and its early work from this director, Alex Garland. This is his first directed feature. Like you said, he is primarily a writer before this. He also wrote The Beach, which is a film Leonardo DiCaprio's in. He wrote Sunshine, another Danny Boyle movie, followed up 28 Days Later. And before this, he hadn't done anything. Apparently, the reason Alex Garland got into directing was he just felt like other directors weren't getting the tone of his writing the way he wanted to do it in his head. And this movie handles tone in a really patient way. It's like a surgeon with a knife. Like every shot feels very locked down and grounded. Everything feels cut very efficiently. And it's hitting really, really kind of particular emotional moments right when it needs to. And it's clear that this movie put Alex Garland on the map for a reason. Like, I know he had obviously a writer before, but there's a reason he's got a third film coming out now, and it's because of the success of this film. Won an Academy Award, actually, that I'm excited to talk about. But
for visual effects?
It was, yeah. So this movie cost $15 million to make, and it won the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. It went up against the Mad Max Fury Road, which is insane that it beat Mad Max Fury Road, and even crazier, it beat The Force Awakens, Star Wars, The Force Awakens, for Best Visual Effects, which was a huge upset. Star Wars The Force Awakens cost $200 million. And also, both films, Star Wars and this movie, starred Domhnall Gleeson and Oscar Isaac.
Yeah.
Although in completely opposing roles. Yeah, one's the protagonist, one's the antagonist. But yeah, just kind of weird. And it's funny because look at it now. Apparently, the Academy said this won Best Visual Effects because it was more personal, I guess, like the Ava stuff, right? The android stuff, that stuff was a bit more body horror and worked better. But like, dude, I don't know if it should have beat Star Wars. Now, some of the effects now look like some John Wick stuff, man. They're pretty hokey, but either way, just a bit behind this film. What did I don't know, Andy, you looking back and visiting, and what'd you think? What'd you catch? You didn't notice before?
One of the things that's amazing to me is that how small it is in scale. Like, I mean, I was surprised that it cost as much as it did, because there's literally 3 people in this movie, and kind of 4, a fourth person in a much smaller role, but basically 3 main characters, and it's all in this compound. There's not big crowd scenes or anything like that. It's all in secluded.
They could all be sets and it would work.
Yeah, and it totally works because you have this dynamic between Nathan and Caleb, and then Caleb and Ava, and then the very mysterious relationship between Ava and Nathan, and you don't really know who's telling the truth. You don't know who to believe. You don't know who's playing who. It's kind of a cat and mouse guessing game.
Yeah.
And Nathan is untrustworthy from the beginning. Like he does this really annoying thing where he constantly misquotes things. Like Caleb says something about this isn't the history of men, it's the history of gods at this point. And then Nathan keeps quoting him and saying, he was like, Caleb looked at me and said, "You're a god," and he's like, "That's not what I said at all."
That's not what I said.
So it's very self-absorbed person like that.
Yeah, Nathan is this wonderful. Oscar Isaac plays Nathan, this wonderful kind of kooky scientist guy who's off doing his own thing. Likes to work hard and play hard. He's a hard worker, and he likes to drink a lot at night, and then wake up in the morning and hit the boxing bag and get to work. Apparently, Oscar Isaac said his performance was inspired by what he saw as like mad, tortured, flawed geniuses like chess champion Bobby Fischer, or uniquely film director Stanley Kubrick, who he claims he based the beard on. That's why he's got a big beard in this movie, is Kubrick, because he thought this is probably how Kubrick was in real life, like just kind of a wacky creator. But Nathan uniquely is like a monk on a mountain. Like Caleb kind of comes to him. They've got this funny scene at the start where he's flying over this giant property in a helicopter, and Caleb says, "You know, we've been flying for 2 hours. Where is this place?" And the copter pilot says, well, "We've been here for 2 hours. This is all his property." They shot this house, whose exteriors at this wonderful little hotel out in Norway. I say hotel and it sounds cheap. It's not. It's super nice. It's like this little compound. You can actually rent a room there. I looked it up. It's about $5,000 a night. But you could totally go stay where they shot Ex Machina. And Caleb is just really kind of dismissive. Like he's doing his own thing, and he presents as kind of nice. He presents as, "Hey, we're just hanging out here. But I need you to sign this incredibly invasive NDA that's going to track your data for the rest of your life to make sure you never ever talk about this thing that we're doing here." Like it's really kooky and weird. Once he agrees to that, Caleb goes in to meet Ava, this exciting new AI, and then he finds out when the power goes out that Nathan is not who he seems. And that's when we get the interesting drama in the film, when our AI tells us, "Hey, the human here, he's lying to you. He's not who he says he is." And now our human kind of Caleb becomes the test subject, and suddenly he has to decide like what is real and what isn't. And it makes for some really good, quiet, slow drama. A lot of people standing around not saying anything. But it works real good, man. It's bold cinema, and it's a real strong showing for an otherwise first-time director.
Right, and I think what else is interesting about all that is there's this certain sexuality that's element that's in place where they've made the robot Ava very seductive looking. Like she's very attractive. Played by, this is the first time I took notice of Alicia Vikander. I hadn't seen her in anything before this.
Before Tomb Raider, right?
Yeah.
There was Ex Machina, which
yeah.
she's great in, by the way. I'm not saying that to be funny. She's really good in this movie.
But you know, she's attractive, and she's, you know, she kind of flirts with Caleb at the same time, and so like that's weird because there's this like human robot love story element to it, but at the same time you don't know, which brings up a lot of great questions, which is like, why is Nathan building robots that are so sexual? You know, because they bring up, you know, Caleb asks, like, you know, are there pleasure models? And Caleb's like, yeah. Of course. What else? Why else would we build it? Why else would to be alive? So there's a very weird like control thing. There's, you know, themes of control and power are part of what's going on this film.
Yes. In between these kind of Ava sessions, in which there are 7, in which Caleb is sitting down and talking to Ava, they're intercut with like these big title cards that pop up, which are really, really odd and uniquely out of place. I think Annihilation does the same thing. Has title cards it cuts to, and I wonder if Men will do the same thing. In between these scenes, Caleb will talk to Nathan. Nathan will talk to Caleb. There may be some reviewing of security footage, lots of staring in the mirror and deciding what does it mean to have meaning. In between that stuff, you get a lot of existential thought, right? What does it mean to be a robot, to experience consciousness, to experience pleasure? And a lot of that conversation is really thoughtful, like really, really sit there and kind of twirl your mustache kind of stuff. Because yeah, it questions, okay, well, why would you make a robot female and we're male? You know, does it make a difference? Why does a robot need to have sexuality or attempt to experience sexuality? What does that do to the human condition? Like, what are people driven by that? Is that the reason we talk to one another? Is it nature versus nurture? Like, that stuff's all interesting, and that's where the writing really shines. Alex Garland's ability to sit down and put a lot of these thoughts on paper, I think, is the kind of thinking that makes other previous works of his, like 28 Days Later and Sunshine, so captivating. The script is real tight, like, and it's real effective. And Ex Machina like almost plays like a student film because it's Alex Garland's first swing in the director chair, but it is such an incredibly like conditioned and patient response to a limited budget. Like this movie, it was probably shot for the same budget as like Firestarter. And this is so much better. Literally won an Academy Award, like simply because of its display of presentation. Even if it doesn't spend that much money, the way it's put together, the way the story is told, like makes it so much more special. And Garland like manages to pull a rabbit out of a hat for his first swing at it, which is bananas. Although word on the street is, I did hear, I was looking at trivia for one of his previous writings. He wrote the movie Dread, starring Carl Urban, came out in 2012. Apparently, Carl Urban claims Garland directed most of that film. Apparently, he was on set literally calling shots, and while like, the director was doing other stuff. So like, there's some word that like this is kind of his second outing, but that movie is also super well received. So good for Alex Garland.
The sci-fi writing and sci-fi ideas are part of what makes this so good. And if you've seen his second film, Annihilation, same thing, similar, really exciting new sci-fi ideas and not tropes that you haven't seen, which is funny because this movie looks like it's going down certain tropes and then it takes kind of some wild turns. And I was watching it with someone who was like, oh, of course, like XYZ is going to happen. And then that's totally not what happens.
You're like, ha,
gotcha.
Yeah, gotcha. A quick mention for performances. I know we already talked about him. Alicia Vikander is great. This is the first role that I remember ever seeing her in. She really gets to evolve as Ava outside of just being kind of this like very simple robot with some complex looks, complex looking CGI animatronics, running under the skin. She starts to dress up and kind of come into her own as an individual, which obviously is an important part of the plot. As she grows, the film grows. And I like that. Like it gives her the opportunity to kind of stretch out a little bit. When you first meet Ava, she's very robotic, she's very cold. And over these sessions, as she gets to know Caleb, she really comes around and starts to have more expression, micro expression. Like I think that's all very controlled performance. And considering Garland, again, first real time the director's chair, probably didn't have a lot of experience directing actors. Her and Oscar Isaac do a really great job of holding that down. Domhnall Gleeson's a little weak. And I think it's just because tonally, some scenes, I don't know, it cuts back to him and the way he says a phrase or the way he turns out a sentence just doesn't come off quite right. I know he's doing an accent. He's not traditionally from
he's
America,
Irish.
but neither is Alicia Vikander, right? Like, and she, I don't think, maybe she has like a full throated Western accent, but
I don't think she's American either.
Yeah, he's a little loose, and it's a shame because otherwise I really like him and stuff. But between the three of them, like it holds down just fine. Yeah, and I like that it feels so small. Like that there's often you don't see a lot of the outside because this place is all like a research facility and it's all stone walls and no windows. But then you'll cut to outside between scenes and it's like beautiful sunshine and like glorious, Norway. Like looks great.
Mm-hmm.
Very pretty presentation.
Yeah, it just shows how much you can do with a great concept and great writing, in that you don't need $100 million to make a great film.
No, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm curious. Do you know anything about who did the music? Because the music's pretty good.
I don't.
I know it's I just looked him up. Jeff Barrow, who's also the composer of Annihilation, makes sense, and Ben Salisbury, who also did Annihilation. Okay, yes. So Alex Garland's got his composers. That's great. I think they're also both doing Men, so good for them. Yep, they both did the soundtrack for Men. All right, so I know where our music's coming from there. Decent music. It's small, it's subdued, but it totally works. Ex Machina is a lot of fun. I'm glad we get to sit down and watch it again. I wish I had more to say about it, but I'm starting to feel like I'm going around in circles. So with that in mind, Andy, are you ready for recommendations?
I am indeed.
Andy, would you recommend Ex Machina for $3 on VOD?
Absolutely. This is one of my favorite kind of modern sci-fi stories. Very exciting premise, interesting characters, goes in a lot of different directions than what you think, and does that thing that sci-fi is meant to do, which is kind of ask deeper questions about humanity. Really exciting to see. Definitely see this before you see Annihilation, which is the second movie, and we'll see what he kind of churns out with Men, because that looks really kind of surreal and bizarre.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Whereas Firestarter, I was like, don't go out of your way. Don't spend the extra money. If you're a sci-fi fan and you haven't seen Ex Machina, like spend the $3. It's totally worth it. I promise. It's a little under 2 hours. It does start to feel a little long coming out of its first act because that first act is where you get all of the exciting introduction stuff. Going out to Nathan's facility, meeting Nathan, meeting Ava, finding out about more about Caleb. Like you get a lot of good stuff. And that middle segment does feel like it sags, but it comes around at the end and you get a really satisfying conclusion. Like Ex Machina is a ton of fun. Put Alex Garland on the map. Also go see Annihilation if you haven't seen it, and go see Men this week, coming out in just 3 days. I'm excited to watch that. And I'm excited to talk about it whenever we get around to it on the show. There's a little bit of back and forth on whether or not we're going to do a show next week because I'm going out of town for my sister's wedding. Happy wedding, Tara. Very excited. Congrats. Hope you hear this. Shout out, maybe. And yeah, I think we're gonna do one next week. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, I'm thinking so for sure. Speaking of what, so he said we'll be watching Men, which opens in theaters this Friday. Theaters only, not streaming anywhere. And we're going to be thinking about what else to watch, something on streaming. We did want to mention that Jackass 4.5 will be opening up May 20th this Friday on Netflix. So what this is it's basically Jackass Forever, which we reviewed a few month or two ago, and it's with some additional footage, some additional stunts. If you really want to have some more gross out humor, but that should be a lot of fun.
Yes, true to the other Jackass films. They did this with Jackass 1.5, 2.5, 3.5. They shoot a ton of footage for Jackass movies and only use parts of it to make the actual film. So they released the 0.5 edition as kind of a additional film. Here's other stunts that didn't make the movie. Often will be cut in with documentary style interviews with the cast talking about experiences shooting the film or like funny reflections on a stunt they did. Looking forward to that. Like I said at the top of the show, it should be coming out on Paramount Plus, but Netflix paid a bunch of money for it. It will be on Netflix May 20th. Also looking forward to that new Chippendale movie on Disney Plus. I know Andy doesn't really want to watch it, but I keep hearing it might be good. And I'm a sucker for, I don't know, I'm a sucker for Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Supposedly it's a lot like that. Could be good. We may watch that. But I think if we do end up doing a show next week, we may end up doing it on Wednesday just so I can get back in town, get myself together, and go catch a screening of Men. And that's what we got going on. So keep here on Off Script for more. And if you like what we're doing on Off Script, you can follow us on Facebook where we live stream our show every single Tuesday, except maybe next week if we do it on Wednesday. You can follow us on YouTube where we upload our live streams. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on iTunes and Google Play and Spotify and iHeartMedia and all the usual places you find your podcasts. We're on the internet at www.offscriptfilmreview.com, and you can mail us correspondence. Tell us what you thought of the show. Tell us what you think, what's going on, exciting news, movie reviews. I don't know, just kind of movie stuff in general. You can send that to mail@offscriptfilmreview.com, and we'll read it and get back to you. Might even read it on the show if it's good conversation. Who knows? But the biggest thing you could do for us if you liked watching the show or listening to the show or just spending time with the show, you could subscribe to get new episodes of Off Script delivered straight to your phone every single Tuesday, and leave us a rating and review while you're at it. It would be huge. It would be tremendous. You have no idea how much it helps us, and I'd really appreciate it. Andy would too. I think that just about covers it from all of us at Off Script, the home of Bold Cinema. I'm Zach Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Draper.
Thanks for watching.